Hey, brother.
Hey, Al.
And welcome everyone back to another episode of Siblings in Crime. I'm Allie Rossell.
And I'm Blake Murphy.
And just as it sounds, we are siblings who love true crime.
Yes, love it.
We are back another Wednesday with another murder this week. But before we dive into it, Blake, how was your week?
My week was pretty good. I was in Des Moines for the weekend. It was a good time. Flew to actually Arizona and back. So that was kind of funny. Had a really weird commute back home from Des Moines. So I took Frontier back home. We went to Denver and then back to Phoenix. On the flight back to Denver, we were delayed for a thunderstorm. Then we had a medical emergency on board.
Jeez.
And then someone started preaching a sermon after the medical emergency.
Wow.
And then we got into the terminal after we were all done. And all the computers shut down for Frontier. So then we had to wait for them to come back on. And then we got on the plane. There was a maintenance issue. And then we started flying after the maintenance issue was figured out. And another medical emergency happened. And then we made it to Arizona.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've literally never had a medical issue ever on any flight.
Yeah. I've had one on my flight and then 3 on flights of commuting.
Really?
Yeah. 2 that day and then 1 other time.
What are the chances?
Yeah.
Dang, what a nightmare. That's too bad. Hopefully those people are okay. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, so that was interesting. And then just working on the houses. We have 2 that we're going to put up for rent.
Very nice.
And then we're selling 2 that are on the market. So.
And where are they?
Tempe, Scottsdale, and Phoenix.
So if you're looking for any of those places,
Yep.
message Blake. He will have a house for you.
I'll sell it to you.
Yeah. Well, sounds eventful. My week was not eventful. And in fact, it's kind of sad because we were supposed to be going to Minnesota tomorrow for a marathon that
Allie's old.
That I pulled out of because I'm a big loser. Because I have lame knees. I don't know what's going on with them. So now I'm in the rehab phase. I mainly was doing this just for fun. The race that we care about is the ultramarathon in October. So I was like, might as well get better knees, make sure I'm not injured or anything. I'm going to make them worse.
Yeah,
so
and I'm going to try to qualify for Boston.
Oh, yeah.
At this race. I'm leaving tomorrow for it. So.
Right. I forgot. You're like super fast.
Yeah. I actually have the Olympics this weekend. A bunch of my friends, we all meet up together and pick teams and play a couple different sports and see who the best is.
That is so fun.
Yeah.
What a good
We're going to try to make it something big and have it where like other people's teams come from all over to
like legit
compete one day. Yeah.
That would be so fun.
Buy like a little ranch and have all the sports at the ranch.
I didn't know you guys were talking about that. That'd be so much fun.
It was just one time we were at Cabo and we just talked about it for like 2 hours.
That's sweet.
Who was it? Me, Jake, Mike, and Rig.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
Wait, let us know if that ever happens.
Yes. I'm just excited for the ranch.
I'm excited for you. That'd be a lot of fun. Well, I didn't say earlier, but as I always say, if you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, follow.
Friend.
All things. Friend. We have been growing a little bit more, so we like to see the progress. Instagram's our freaking low, the least growth.
Yeah, but it has the most.
Yeah.
Just because of friends.
We're Siblings in Crime Pod on all platforms. Go find us. And we would love any feedback, any case suggestions. So that'd be awesome.
Tell your friends.
Send them to somebody. Rate it. Comment. We love that crap.
Give us suggestions on new podcast stories.
Case suggestions that I just said.
Oh, you said that?
Great
I was
listener.
totally thinking about something else.
Totally good listener. That's okay. Yeah, no, it means so much to us. So thank you so much for the support. In today's case, we have a woman who is murdered in her Chicago apartment. There's no forced entry, no obvious robbery, and definitely no obvious suspect. For months, detectives follow every rule in the book and get nowhere. But then something strange happens. A new lead comes forward, just a single name, and once they follow it, the pieces all fall into place. Only later does everyone stop and ask, like, where the heck did this name even come from? We'll be in the late 70s today when forensic testing was not yet readily available, as we know. So it all came down to good old-fashioned police work. But what makes this case one of the most unbelievable stories is what pushed the detectives to the man behind the horror. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's roll. It is a cold February in Chicago in 1977. The wind rattles the windows of apartment buildings and presses against the sides of the city like a persistent stranger. But inside the Edgewater Hospital, things are calm, orderly, as calm as you can get in a hospital. I imagine there's really not a relaxed day. Mm-hmm. Teresita Basa moves quickly through the corridors, her shoes clicking softly against the floor. She's deliberate, gentle, kind, soft-spoken. She's like all the great characteristics that you can give a woman. Teresita is 47 years old. She's actually originally from the Philippines, and she came to the United States more than a decade ago chasing knowledge, independence, purpose, all the things that people typically try and come to America for. She was beyond passionate about music. It's actually fun to listen to the people that love her most talk about her passion about music. She was going to school she was doing night school to get a PhD in music. She would teach the neighborhood kids piano for free just because she loved the piano. So her passion was definitely music, but in order to kind of fulfill that passion, she had to work, of course. And so in time, she added respiratory therapy to her resume and took a job at Edgewater Hospital. Her coworkers say she's private to herself, but she's not shy. Like, she has lots of friends. She has her little group of gals that would hang out, but she doesn't have kids. She's not married, but she's not lonely because of this group, this like girl gang that she's got.
Yeah.
It's actually
love that.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. Like, according to some sources, like they have a little Filipino gang, not gang, but they call themselves like the Filipino Mafia. I was like, wait, that's actually so fun. I
didn't think she was gonna be Filipino.
Yeah, she's Filipino.
I think she sounds Mexican.
It sounds like she has like her little culture and her little home, and so she really embraced that, especially with the music. And in her home, she had a lot of instruments and a lot of a lot of items from her home country, and so she really embraced her culture, which I love that about her.
Yeah.
She lives on the 15th floor of a high-rise apartment in 2740 North Pine Grove Avenue, just off Lake Michigan.
Oh.
We're going to start at the scene of the crime. It starts off with a smell. It seems like it always does.
Who's smelling this smell?
All the neighbors.
Oh.
Something faint.
Something's rotting.
You think.
Oh.
Something faint at first, like burning paper or scorched plastic. Do you have another guess?
Freak. Not really anymore. It's kind of a random smell.
It is. It's the kind of thing that you just miss as you're passing by another person's
Maybe they're
apartment.
burning clothes.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ah.
Look at that. You think that, like, you kind of like dismiss it if you smell kind of like burning in your neighbor, like, oh, they suck at cooking or something, you know?
Yeah.
Something different. But on the 15th floor
Left
of
the
the
wrapper
high
on.
rise, what was that?
I'm just kidding. I said left the wrapper on.
Yeah, you think that they did something. But on the 15th floor of the high rise on North Pine Grove Avenue, neighbors began to wrinkle their noses and a few crack open their doors. And that's when they realized that this isn't just a smell, this is smoke. Within minutes, someone pulls the fire alarm, which I feel like I would always be too nervous to do that. Like,
And burning the clothes in the house?
So
That
we'll
sounds
dive into it more. The shrill echo screams down the hallways as doors open and residents pile out. Chaos ripples across the floor. Someone calls the fire department. Others bang on doors and try to hurry everyone down the stairwell. But there's just one door that stays closed, and that's apartment 15B. Firefighters arrive fast around 9:30 p.m., and they make their way through the stairwell. Gear hissing, boots heavy, they force open the door to 15B and disappear into the smoke. The inside of the unit is dark, smoldering, as you imagine. There's no sign of kitchen fire, no candles tipped over, nothing that's obvious. And as the firefighters make their way through the apartment, they make it into the bedroom. Lying on the floor is a peculiar scene. It's a mattress, just a mattress, lying alone, and curiosity taking over. They most likely wanted to see what was going on, so acting on a hunch, They lift the mattress, and what they find underneath sends shivers down their spine despite the blazing heat.
It's under the mattress?
It didn't take much to see that this wasn't an accident. It was a crime scene, and a bizarre one at that. Doesn't make sense. We have Detective Stahula. I'm going to probably say that different every single time.
Stahula?
Stahula.
Okay.
He watches as the last the fire investigators tape off the apartment door. The smoke has cleared, and what's left behind is worse. The bedroom is blackened and damaged, along with everything we know that lies inside. Amongst the carnage is a woman found face down under her bedroom mattress. She was nude with a kitchen knife buried deep into her chest.
Oh, snap.
The handle cleanly broken off. On first inspection, sexual motive seemed to be a factor, but after autopsy results came in, it was clear that the scene was staged to look like a sexual assault. The cause of death...
A woman.
Oh, I always think that too when it's staged. The cause of death was the single knife wound along with strangulation. There was no sexual assault, like we said, and the woman burned was beyond recognizable. The firefighters, obviously not knowing yet who this person was, found a nearby badge laying on the floor, and as we know, and as suspected, Teresita Basa, Edgewater Hospital. As crime scene techs sweep the apartment, the details get even stranger. There's no sign of forced entry, which, what do you think would be, like, signs of forced entry?
Broken, door.
Yeah, broken door.
Or, maybe someone messed with the lock or something.
Oh, it's, like, picked or something like that?
Yeah, or, broke it or...
Like, slammed the door.
Yeah, maybe, broke the door off the hinges or something crazy.
I always wondered, how obvious that would be. I think I need to be more aware of who I open the door for, probably. This doesn't have good... Our house here doesn't have good windows I can just look through. So I just open the door.
It has a great window.
It's, you can't see through it. It's, the rainy look or whatever. Unless I open the whole...
I'm saying, the window right next to the door.
I need to look out the window more often. Yeah, no, because I was like, maybe I just open the door so easily. I think someone could just charge in. I feel like it's not always willingly let in, even if there's no obvious signs of damage. But regardless, I was just curious what you thought. Like you said, the door wasn't broken, the locks weren't tampered with, there was no broken glass or anything that made it obvious that there was a break-in.
Yeah.
Then there's question of robbery. But this motive didn't hold in the eyes of the investigators because her wallet still containing cash was there. Her TV, stereo, jewelry box, all untouched. Even her purse sits undisturbed near the front entrance. If someone came to steal, they did obviously a very poor job at it.
Yeah, they were stealing one thing or something.
That's what I was going to say. Sometimes I'm like, okay, so obviously detectives are just kind of looking around. They're like, oh, it doesn't look like robbery. But... what if they had a collection of something, something really, small, one thing they were looking for. And I was thinking about that. Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, I feel like, someone like this won't have something super valuable. That's one thing that some other person wants.
Yeah, that's true.
That they kill over, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe something antique. I don't know. But I think about that. I'm like, if I found out someone broke into your house and stuff, I would have no idea if, something was or wasn't taken. I feel like I don't know, if you keep anything in your room, he had tons of cash in his drawer, I would not have known if you got robbed or not.
Yeah, but I feel like they can see things that are left and be like,
why would
if someone was stealing something, you should probably take that too. It's easy to grab your jewelry and easy to grab your wallet, stuff like that.
Right. Unless it's for the one specific thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
I can see that. Detectives note in their reports a strange detail observed at the scene, and that the killer had taken Teresita's clothes off her body and nearby clothes kind of in the area and seemed to have made a separate burn pile. So that's why I was like, you actually were spot on with the clothes burning, because literally next to the burning mattress was a pile of burning clothes. Kind of interesting. Seems weird. Maybe it's to destroy evidence. Maybe it's to humiliate. Maybe both.
Probably destroy evidence.
I would assume so. But
you're going to right when you light it, 30 minutes later, it's going to be a fire. It's not or maybe less, the fire alarm will go off. So it's you're not really giving yourself time to get away very well, unless you're trying to destroy evidence.
Yeah. I wonder how, I was thinking about this earlier. I was thinking about like forensics and stuff. Like, I wonder how aware people are doing crimes in the 70s, like with
Probably
forensics, you know? It's like they know to burn clothes and potential evidence. But like once the change was probably happening with forensics being more readily available and used, I bet it was like the police detectives and stuff were so excited because no criminals were knowing about all this new technology and stuff.
Yeah.
Catch people left and right. But now everyone is so aware, so people probably real careful. But if you're going to do a crime, don't be careful, get caught. Just don't do the crime. But yeah.
Or do the time.
That's what I thought was interesting. Just probably the evidence, but I mean, he must be aware of what he's doing for sure. Doesn't seem like he's in a rush. Mm-hmm. Forensics combed the apartment for fingerprints, fibers, and any hint of DNA, but the fire has swallowed it all. So there's no usable prints, like the most commonly used things. Yeah. No blood trail, no hair. Everything melts under heat, and this killer knew it. Like I said, we're in the 70s also, so you had limited things to work with at the time. Mm-hmm. By early March, Detective Joseph Stahula desk is buried in notes. He's flipping through those 3-4 times a day, trying to find anything he's missed. There's witness reports, hospital rosters, building tenant lists, police interview logs. It all feels static at this point. You get a lead and then nothing. You hear a name, then nothing. It just is a constant cycle leading to dead ends. The murder of Teresita Basa is turning into something that he hates most, and that's an unsolvable case. I wonder that all the time. It's like, I feel like I would love being a private investigator or something, like trying to solve a puzzle. But getting to the point, if you ever have a cold case, I would lose my mind, I think, racking my brain.
I feel like starting would be really hard and annoying, and then like when you get stuck. But like when you're like finding clues and like on someone's trail, that would be kind of cool.
That would be probably the most satisfying feeling, knowing that you're helping a family. Mm-hmm. They started with the only real clue that they had. It was a scribbled line in her calendar when they were combing through the scene, and the line read, quote, "Get tickets for AS." AS being initials. The initials became their obsession. Okay. They go through her phone records, interview coworkers, reach out to friends, neighbors, even distant acquaintances, and no one knows who this AS is. No one was expecting tickets, but also I don't think anyone's going to be like, me, I was expecting tickets, you know?
Yeah.
And so this note at the time leads nowhere. Next came the theory everyone whispers about, of course, is like ex-boyfriends, that type of thing. Was she seeing anyone privately? Like, had a relationship gone bad? She was private, sure, but no one can hide everything. And they actually tracked down a man that she was occasionally spending time with. But when questioned, he claimed he was out of town, which police were able to talk and find with people that verified this. And because there was no forensic, nothing tied him to the case, he was cleared pretty quickly.
What's his name? What's his initials?
Not AS.
Oh.
I know. Let down. So the obvious lead is gone. There's the possibility of a robbery gone wrong, like we said. With the fire of the nudity, though, it all kind of suggests either something like violent or planned. It seems kind of weird that a robbery would go wrong and you'd go to this extreme. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It seems like they had time.
You could just run out.
Yeah.
Like stab them and make a scene.
Exactly. It seems like that's a little extreme behavior for what has been typically known for robbers. And like we said, the most obvious things are there. Who would leave the purse? Who would leave these things behind? And the scene itself does not scream that it was a rush robbery gone wrong. It seems more staged than anything else. And detectives begin working through everyone she knows. They interview dozens of people, nurses, janitors, friends from her church, patients who admire her. One former music student even comes voluntarily to say that like this was the nicest, sweetest person ever. And so it doesn't seem like she has any obvious injuries. Not one of them gives detectives a single name worth following. And that's another thing that I think of. Like, how close are your friends and families? Like, if something was going on with you, I feel like I would not know if you had, like, a sketchy person in your life.
Oh, yeah. Probably not.
Yeah. And I think it's Crime Junkies maybe that have, like, the If I Go Missing folder or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like things like that is smart. Like, leave some sort of trail, like, for your family or, I don't know, I guess having your location on helps. Mm-hmm. You know, I just thought of the freaking pawn shop incident with you.
What?
Remember or you're taking a guy to a pawn shop or something. Dad was freaking out. He's like, Blake's not answering any of my calls. We're all following your location on our phone. And the last thing he heard was that you're picking up a guy from a gas station or something and taking him to a pawn shop. Do you remember any of this?
I don't remember.
Are you kidding me?
I'm just a good guy.
Oh, evidently. It had given your family a heart attack. My dad was like freaking out, and I just remember he was so pissed. He's like, you don't ever do this too, like he was livid. So be nice, but be safe and smart at the same time.
Yeah. Because last episode, I think we talked about me taking a guy who was in jail. Just got out of jail somewhere.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I didn't even know you like picked up hitchhikers, and
I don't know why I picked up these. I mean, I sometimes do.
It sounds like we have two stories on the record.
I feel like when people ask me at a gas station, I take them.
That's
not
a
hitchhikers.
He's hitching a ride.
Yeah, I guess.
Which is funny because I got in trouble, obviously, from Brett for picking up hitchhikers. But so if you're gonna do anything, just have your people on the phone. Just be smarter than us. But the building had a locked lobby, and there was no signs of forced entry. And the biggest holdup was that the door was locked when the firefighters arrived. Detectives think that there were a couple possibilities. Of course, the breaking in part was either that she let the killer in voluntarily, which
how'd they get out though?
Aligns with her personality. Exactly.
Unless they have a key. Can't they just unlock it with a key?
Yeah. And
steal her key. They steal a key.
Yeah. I can see the gears turning. Key, and they steal key. That's awesome.
Her key was left there?
Key, yeah. I think there's
Got
the possibility. Yep, the possibility that the guy had stole the key. But also later on, they found out that there was a chance that her door, I don't know if this is verified, but this is what they're thinking, had the automatic lock behind. So literally all they had to do is close the door.
In the 70s, they have an automatic lock?
That's what they said is unverified, but is what detectives think may have happened. So I was like, okay, well, that seems obvious that if it would lock by itself, that's not really a big mystery.
Yeah.
But it would be shocking in the 70s to have a door like that.
It's probably just a mechanism where like you close the door and it's like or something like
okay,
crazy.
You make the 70s sound like they were like before any technology whatsoever.
I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know.
I wasn't alive.
But it's not like probably, maybe, I don't know.
I just pictured Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Like he makes all those like weird gadgets. That's exactly what I just pictured.
Yeah, he pushes the buttons like ding, ding,
yeah,
ding, ding, ding,
exactly.
Closes the thing.
So, I mean, who knows if it was that inventive or not. But regardless.
Maybe they just have everything that we have now. Maybe we just haven't progressed and we just don't know that.
I felt like we would notice. According to the building standards and investigative reports at the time, Teresita's apartment door was probably one that auto-locked, but like I said, not confirmed. The killer could simply have just pulled the door shut, or if they had a key, could relock it. So now they're like, okay, is it someone in the building? Is someone that she trusted with a key? And neither of those things lead to any progress in the case. Sahula, the detective, and his partner, Lee Eplin, meet in silence more often than not, completely stumped. That would be so frustrating. You guys are just sitting around your office like, what the heck do we do next?
Yeah.
The whiteboard of suspect is mostly erased now. Just question marks and the name A.S. written in fading ink. And then, just as they begin preparing to shelve the case as cold, which I wonder at what point do you shelve a case, but and we know at this point it's been like about 5-6 months or so. Something strange happens, to say the least. To understand how this case shifted, we need to go back to Edgewater Hospital, specifically to a coworker of Teresita's. The two women weren't close, more likely just like kind of passing acquaintance. She was also a respiratory therapist, but it sounds like they worked opposite shifts. So they never crossed paths, but she was also Filipino. And so I think they had the same friend group, but the two of them weren't very close. They know of each other.
They're friends of friends.
Friends of friends, yeah. Mutual people, but not hanging out or anything like that.
Yeah, like they would hang out in a group maybe.
I don't even think they did that.
Oh, so they just know each other.
I think they know each
other. Other
other.
people know each other.
Right. It's like, oh, I know that this person is on the shift after me type of thing. So flashing back to the first few months after Teresita was found murdered in her apartment, we have Remy Chua. I think that's how it's said, and I'm going to say it like that regardless. She is alone in the break room at Edgewater Hospital. The fluorescent lights above her buzz faintly, and she closes her eyes for just a moment, a quick rest before her next round. But then something shifts. As has been retold, she says she felt a thrill of fear. She opens her eyes, and there was a woman there watching her, but the room was empty. Except...
Ghost?
Technically, it's not. Dun dun. Remy doesn't recognize that her at first, but she knows deep down in some part of her that she doesn't need proof. It was Teresita Basa.
So it is a ghost?
A ghost.
Oh.
Okay. You're going to have to follow me through this because weird things happen.
All right.
She was so shaken up. I mean, I would be too if you're like, I could have sworn I just saw this person who just passed away. She actually took the rest of the day off. Like, she was like rocked. She's like, I'm going home. Let the work. The feeling doesn't fade over the next few days, and the sensation continues to return at work, at home, out and about. Like, literally, she's like, I feel this presence is weirding me out. In fact, it like takes her over. It gets to the point that coworkers are noticing, and that those close to Teresita think it's wildly inappropriate that Remy seems to be almost trying to take over Teresita's mannerisms and personality. Okay, so many say Remy was now talking about the piano the way Teresita used to, along with almost mimicking her voice.
What the freak?
Weird. The whole ordeal actually led to many complaints against Remy, claiming like a hostile environment, which is kind of funny to me. Like, I would never think, I don't even know if I would notice if someone was like mimicking another person or like that changed of behavior. But I guess it got to a point where people were getting upset with Remy that she seemed to be acting like their friend who passed away. And it actually led to her termination from Edgewater Hospital.
Jeez.
Isn't that crazy? Sucks. I know. I was like, poor Remy is like, I don't know what's going on, and now I just lost my job.
Yeah. It's either that or she's crazy.
Right. And all this is so sad, but Remy claims, 2 words. Remy claims.
Remy clam.
Yeah, exactly. Remy claims it must have been for the better because things were like getting weird for her, and things were only getting weirder until one night the pressure finally breaks. Remy, hanging out with her husband, they're in the living room. She abruptly gets off the couch one night, goes to her room, and lays on her bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling without saying a word. Kind of weird. Husband's like, you didn't say anything when you got up. Husband's like, okay, I'm going to go check on my wife. He gets up, dumbfounded at the odd behavior, and of course, asked her what's going on. But she doesn't respond, at least not at first. Her eyes flutter, her lips begin to move, and then a voice that doesn't belong to her, she says, Doctor, I need your help. The man who murdered me is still at large.
Why doctor? Is her husband a doctor?
Exactly. Remy's husband is Dr. Jose Chua. Chua is what it was. Chua. Shocked beyond belief, of course. He's a doctor. He doesn't believe in this stuff, I'm sure. He's like a man of science, I assume. Shocked beyond belief, asked who she was, and she told him, I am Teresita Basa.
She should ask what the name is.
She claims that the man who murdered her, his name was Alan Showery.
Oh, AS, baby.
AS, baby. Yeah, Dr. Chua, I keep saying that. Dr. Chua stares frozen, of course, and she continues, speaking as if from like memory, not imagination. She says through Remy that he came to fix my TV, he killed me, stole my jewelry, and gave it to his girlfriend.
Dang.
Remy's eyes now open. She wakes up. She's present again, and she doesn't remember a word. She's like, what's up? And her husband's like, holy crap, this is what you just said. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't remember anything. They carry on their night thinking weird nightmare, something that was odd. But then the next night, it happens again.
Oh, dang.
This time, she speaks in Tagalog, the Filipino language.
Oh, wow.
Or one of the Filipino languages, pleading with Remy's husband to call the police. Now, Remy and her husband are also Filipino, like I said, and they know Tagalog, but I don't think Remy speaks it very much. Like, hearing for Dr. Jose, hearing his wife is like, that's not like you.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, that's weird. Why are you speaking Tagalog? Now, I guess, like, that spooked him enough. But, okay, that's not like your behavior. The voice, he says, doesn't sound like his wife's. And they try to push it off once again, but the husband's kind of spiraling. He's like, I keep witnessing my wife go through this weird trance, and she doesn't remember it.
And she's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, anyways, what do you want for dinner? Right.
Yeah.
And so the next day, Dr. Chua drove his wife, Remy, back to Edgewater because she had to go get her stuff. So this is all like she gets terminated. they have this weird experience. Next day, they're picking up her stuff. So we're 2 days in a row that she's had this trance. Remy goes, gets her stuff, whatever. When they get back, Remy is on a phone call, and she abruptly stops and says, Teresita wants to come back. Hands the phone to her husband, turns, walks back to the bedroom, lays on the bed, eyes to the ceiling. Same thing.
Jeez.
I get so creeped out thinking about that. I was like, for the poor husband, I'd be like, don't let Teresita back. Like, how freaky.
I would have just gone to the cops and said, this is what happened, and hopefully it stops. And if it doesn't stop, then I'd be scared.
That's true. So this is
cops are like, okay.
Right.
You guys either have something to do with this and trying to cover for it, or...
Exactly. And I bet that's probably what they're thinking is
real.
like, I don't want them to like think I'm implicated somehow.
Yeah.
If that's the case. But so this is day 3. Okay. Do we have the red light on us?
You kind of do.
Okay. Okay, this is day 3. Teresita would again allegedly speak through Remy, accusing the same man, Alan Showery, every time, even adding more proof this time, including specific jewelry that he stole, saying Teresita's family could identify it. Keep in mind, police knew nothing about this. Police were like, jewelry box untouched, not a robbery, check. So the fact that they're talking about specific jewelry seems pretty oddly specific, obviously. On this 3rd episode of this weird supernatural event, which is now about 5 months post-murder, Remy looks her husband in the eye, not as herself, and asks, why didn't you go to the police? So even Teresita, through Remy, is like, I'm giving you all this information, go do something with it.
Yeah.
He doesn't have an answer. He's like, I don't want to look dumb, probably. Like, I don't want to come off as some crazy person.
I'm a doctor.
Yeah, but after this third day in a row, he's like, okay, we're going. So that's what they do. Detective Joseph Stahula has seen a lot in his 20 years, as you can imagine, on the force.
Force? Oh, Tula. Yeah. I thought you were talking about the doctor.
Oh, no, sorry, the detective. And so he's seen everything you can imagine, but nothing like this. It was an average morning when a man and a woman walked into the station asking to speak with the homicide detective. Upon first impression, the husband seems quiet but professional and says he's a doctor. And they sit down across Stahula and his partner, Lee Eplin. He introduces himself and his wife, and Remy doesn't say anything. She probably, they both seem nervous, and her husband's speaking for the two of them. But he tells them that they have some information potentially about Teresita Basa's case. The detectives lean forward, interested, of course, and Dr. Chua hesitates and initially gave a story about a man from Edgewater Hospital that they think that he should look into. Now, Detective Shula, he is a man of many years' experience, and he can tell when people are kind of being a little deceptive, not sharing the whole story, and he picks up on that right away. He goes, okay, that's great, thank you. Tell me more what you actually want to tell me.
Yeah.
And what comes next, obviously, he was not expecting. When Dr. Chua explains, yes, there was more to the story, and that for the last several nights, his wife has entered this trance-like state. During these spells, she speaks in another voice, one he swears is not his wife's, and she claims to be Teresita, and names the killer Alan Showery. She says Teresita said that Alan came to fix the TV, and that she was murdered, and that the jewelry was taken and given to his girlfriend. And, of course, the detectives are like, okay, great, thanks for the tip. That's weird.
Yeah. Does the public know about the initials?
I believe the public knows about the initials because they asked if everyone knew and not like an AS. But to what extent, they don't know as far as the murder scene. One thing that is not made public is if there was any sexual violence. And so the detectives actually use that as leverage and asked, like, okay, was she raped? And he's like, no, like Teresita says she was not raped. Like she said that one of her trances. And the cops are like, correct. Weird. So it seemed that they knew more than they were supposed to, as far as like more than what the media was giving. Like I said, Shula was skeptical, but then Dr. pulls out a piece of paper, and on it are the details of the trances. So like that she wasn't raped, the specific jewelry, it was a pearl ring and a jade pendant necklace specifically. The ring was actually given to her by her mom a year prior. The paper included instructions to ask Teresita's cousin if those items belonged to her.
Dang, that's
Oddly
crazy.
specific.
Yeah.
Stahula raises an eyebrow. It's oddly specific, like I said. And so it freaks him out a little bit. But the name Alan Showery actually sounds a little familiar to him. He's like, okay, wait, that's actually ringing a bell. And so he checks his files, and sure enough, Showery works at Edgewater Hospital. Sources differ depending on like what his actual occupation was there. But I think most settle on that he was also a respiratory therapist. But regardless, they were friends. Nothing more.
He's not a TV repairman?
He's not a TV repairman. No.
Oh, I thought that's what they said.
He was going to come over to fix her TV as a friend.
Oh, as a friend.
Yeah, so they're just calling a buddy for help. They were friends, and they often caught the same bus to and from work. They would have lunch together. Purely platonic, though. They just were your classic coworkers.
Yeah.
But seeing that, I was like, okay, AS doesn't feel so cryptic anymore. Still, they don't tip their hand to it. He turns to his partner and he's like, okay, we're not going to charge anyone based off a ghost. But he's already opening his notepad because ghosts or not, a name is a name. And Alan Showery just became the most interesting person to them in Chicago. Mm-hmm. So, of course, they're not just going to go arrest him and be like, oh, the ghost told us, you know. First, they watched. They follow him after work. They track his routine and confirm that he lives on the north side, same side as Teresita. And yes, he works at Edgewater Hospital, same as Teresita. And yes, he did, in fact, seem to have made a house call to her apartment just days before the murder. He went over there. I'm not sure if that's because Teresita said to her coworker friends that he was going over. I feel like that would have been brought up sooner. One way or another, they figured that he was going over there for the TV. When detectives visit this apartment, or Alan's apartment, they meet his girlfriend, and she's friendly, kind of oblivious to everything going on, and on a hunch, they ask her about jewelry. She actually shows them a few pieces of jewelry that Alan recently gave her as a gift, and it was a pearl ring and a jade necklace.
Dang, that's crazy.
They match Remy's trance
Why
list
can't this happen
exactly.
more often?
I know, seriously.
Just kidding.
I was like, okay, now texts are like, okay, tone shifting. This is weird. I feel like we're maybe onto something.
Yeah.
So detectives bring Showery in for questioning, like not arrested or cuffs or anything like that, just to talk to him. And he claims at first that first he said he didn't go to her apartment. Classic. We all get that. Then he's like, oh, wait, I did go because I was going to help her with her TV.
Like, we already knew that.
Okay, check. Yeah, you're hitting all these boxes. And he said that she canceled and told him not to worry about it, so he left. But that's when they decide to turn up the heat a little bit on him, and they show him a photograph of the jewelry. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Is this your girlfriend's?" And he's staring at it, doesn't have anything to say. He's at a loss for words. And then comes the second blow when the partner, Eplin, is like, "Oh, by the way, we have a witness." This spirals Showery for some reason, and he breaks at this point. I mean, what Eplin didn't say was that, like...
It was a ghost witness?
Yeah, it was a possessed coworker by the ghost of the person he murdered.
Yeah.
But regardless, at this point, he confesses.
Got him.
Exactly. He says that he went to the apartment to help with the TV, but he needed money, and he thought that Teresita had some. He didn't plan to hurt her, he says. He just snapped, as they all say. He said that after he left her apartment, he actually made a plan to return and rob her. So he was there, he left, came back.
It was locked.
It was locked, but she unlocked it for him, let him in the house, and when she turned to lock the door, he grabbed her from behind, and that's when he attacked her. He disrobed her, declothed her, to make it look like a sexual crime, and he took the mattress, placed over her body, set it on fire, grabbing jewelry and about $30 cash, depending on the source. So it's like, okay, you got $30 cash and you got a ring and a necklace for your girlfriend. Mm-hmm. Doesn't seem very justifiable, but this is how he says it went down.
Crazy.
He doesn't even ask the police like how he knew or who this witness was. Mm-hmm. He was probably confused as he thinks over this, wondering like the only person who should have known what happened was dead. Mm-hmm. The morning after Alan Showery's confession, Detectives Stahula and Eplin wasted no time with a search warrant, and they went to his residence. And the home he shared with his pregnant girlfriend, I might add, Yanka is her name. They arrived before dawn, mindful that every minute mattered for evidence, of course. Inside, nestled in her dresser drawer, she pulled out the pearl ring and the jade pendant necklace, exactly as named in the trance. Investigators immediately photographed and logged each item, laying the foundation so like it has the correct, like airtight chain of custody.
Yeah.
Which is so smart. These detectives are like, okay, we're gonna make sure that we have all the evidence. This was a weird lead, but we're gonna roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
On top of all this stacking evidence, his only alibi was a vague claim that he says he went to Teresita's, but then he went home because he had to fix a wiring issue at home. And when the detectives asked his girlfriend Yanka, they're like, "Oh, was there a wiring issue?" Yanka's like, "What wiring issue?" "No, he wasn't home. I don't know where he was." I'm like, this girl is like so clutch. She's very cooperative with the police detectives that are questioning her. So the girlfriend literally is like, "Here, take the jewelry, do whatever you want. I'm not involved." Later that day, Eplin's son ended up dryly saying, "There's no more ghosts needed. We've got the confession, stolen property, and a motive." Like, the case built itself. Mm-hmm. By early 1979, 2 years after the murder is now time for the People versus Alan Showery finally to make it to court. But this won't be your typical trial. Not after word gets around that how police found Alan. So, like, the media is running with the ghost story. I feel like, do you think overall media is a good thing or it can be a bad thing for cases like this? A net good or
I think
bad?
it depends. I think if it brings attention and people, start talking about the case and clues are found, then it's good. But if it brings negative press, then it's not good.
I know. It's like hard to have the right balance. How do you like monitor that?
I don't know. You can't really.
I would like to
It's
think.
hard to keep the facts straight.
Right. I would like to think it's like a net good. But you get weird things like this where like the case was, or the media was kind of slandering how the case came forward. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of a bad look for Teresita's team. Mm. Alan Showery pleads not guilty. Okay, so he took back his confession. The prosecution walks a tightrope. They have all the goods. They got the evidence. But they also know that the lead that how they found their guy, and they don't say anything about that in court. They're like, we're going to zip that up, and we're just going to prove all the evidence. But at the same time, you have the defense that knows what's going on as well. Mm-hmm. And they run with the ghost story, which I would imagine would exactly what they would do. They suggest that the case was built on superstition, that police relied on phantom witness, and that any confession was coerced. Any jewelry was circumstantial. The jurors don't like roll their eyes at it, but they also aren't convinced either way, leading them to a hung jury.
Oh, wow.
I know.
That's kind of crazy.
I was pretty surprised because I was like, they have so much evidence, I felt like.
Yeah.
But it was a hung jury, and so the the trial is rescheduled. But before it even begins, Showery folds. So facing this mountain of evidence and the fear of harsher sentence, he actually changes his plea to guilty for the second trial.
Alrighty.
So he's convicted of murder, arson, and robbery and sentenced to 14 years in prison. The plea deal
seems like a little bit.
Yeah, you're going to even get more mad when you hear more about it. The plea deal spares him the second trial and the possibility of life behind bars. So, like, for the dates to sum it up, the hung jury happened January 26th at 1979. So that's like when the first trial ended. And then on February 23rd, just a month later, that's when he pleaded guilty. And so that was when his conviction is on record. Mm-hmm. You're not going to believe this. How long do you think it took until he was paroled? So he was sentenced 14 years. How long do you think he served?
8 years.
Less.
4.
4 years.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that like nothing?
Yeah, that's like nothing.
I was like, okay, that's high school. Great. You wasted no time whatsoever. Get back into life. I was shocked. This man quietly walked back in society. No press followed him. No cameras waiting at the gates. His name just kind of slipped from the headlines.
I'm surprised because it was such a big deal.
I know.
all the media beforehand. I'm surprised they didn't. I'm bleeding. They didn't say anything when he got released. I
know. It seemed like he was able to just like vanish. And it was interesting because I was like trying to find him. I was like, where's he at these days? And no one's heard of his whereabouts since like 2000.
Yeah.
So
probably changed his name.
Yeah, he like went. He's like, okay, sweet,
I don't
4
know
years.
if you can though. Like if you're on parole, like you probably have to keep your same name probably.
Well, this was in '79, and I haven't heard anything since the 2000s. So maybe he
off parole.
Yeah, off parole. Maybe he was able to make some changes by then. Mm-hmm. So it was extra shocking because he had a fat rap sheet too. Like
really?
That's one thing I was like, okay, one, it's already horrible that he literally murdered, burned place, robbed, all these things. But maybe if that was like the only thing he's ever done, even then, 4 years is nothing.
Yeah.
But then if you add on his history, he has robbery, like multiple accounts of rape. And
he worked at a hospital?
Yeah, and he worked at a hospital.
That's crazy.
I know.
I feel like back in the day, you could like fake things so much easier. Like you know, give them a document that says you're good, and it's like, oh, looks like the normal one.
Right.
Rather than like things being way more secured and, you know, real. Like,
yeah.
These days, like you can't fake it. A lot of things.
Like what are they gonna do? Go online?
Yeah.
And go deep search. Nice
search
try.
you. Search
go to the
your
library.
criminal history.
We just show that we have no idea about the 70s, but yeah, exactly. It's not like they can deep dive into anybody. I imagine they could do.
Like I bet background checks are like super expensive or something.
They must be, but you would think that would be like mandatory for a hospital. Regardless, he found his way into a hospital.
Yeah.
And he somehow found his way out of jail for only after 4 years. Teresita's family, though grateful for justice, was literally shocked, like everyone, at how light the sentence was from the beginning. Like even when I said 14, you're like, that's it? I'm like, oh, just wait, 4.
Yeah.
Horrible.
That's crazy.
It's such a brutal crime and for no motive whatsoever, genuinely.
Yeah.
On top of that, they remained pretty haunted as well with the questions around the surreal way that it all been resolved.
Seriously.
They're like, I feel like, I don't know, do you think that you would believe if I died, would you be like, oh yeah, Allie would come back? Like, would you believe someone if they told you that?
Probably. If it helps us win.
That's true.
Then I'm like, oh, I guess it was right.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like with how specific the details were with the information given leads me to become a believer.
Yeah. And that it worked and he confessed and everything.
Yeah, and it ended up all being spot on. And like the cousin was like, yeah, she wore that pearl ring every day. Like her mom gave it to her. So it's like, one, how would he be in possession? And two, how would some random couple know that? Yeah. That she doesn't even work on the same shift and hardly even knows this woman. Yeah. That's just bizarre.
It is bizarre.
Detectives Joseph Stahula and Lee Eplin continue their work at Chicago PD, of course. And they really talk about the case publicly because that's kind of like a taboo thing, I imagine, like an unconventional way to solve a case. But when asked about it, they just kind of say they followed the evidence, but they honestly would have never been able, there wouldn't have been anything to follow if that couple didn't come in. So it seems like they give them a little credit, but they're like, the case was closed because of the evidence, which I agree with. As for Remy and Dr. Jose Chua, they returned to their quiet life, and Remy stopped having those dreams. Literally, they went in, talked to the cops, and she says that she hasn't had any of those experiences since. Also leaves me to believe that more probability. Yeah. When asked years later why she thought Teresa was going to her, of all people, she goes on to say, like, I don't know, I didn't ask for it. I must have just been listening. And I'm like, that's an interesting way to phrase that. Yeah. The case has become somewhat of a legend now, filed away in the unsolved mystery type of category, paranormal phenomenons, and true crime oddities. It's been called one of the few murder cases in American legal history solved by a ghost. Wow. But whether you believe in the voices from beyond or not, the facts don't lie. Teresita Basa died in silence, but somehow she told the world what happened to her. Yeah. And that is the case of Teresita Basa.
Wow, that one was crazy.
Isn't that so unique?
That is very unique.
I don't know if you've heard that one or like anything familiar. That's one of the... I've heard of a few cases that are kind of similar, but nothing as obvious and as specific as this kind of a case. I don't think I'm huge on psychics. I don't think I've heard many psychics be right. But something like this is unbelievable. So,
seriously.
Do you believe her, though?
I believe her.
Me too. I believe her. The Chuas are awesome for going in and with the evidence. They also probably wanting the haunting to stop.
Yeah, that's true. What was her last name again?
Teresita Basa.
Okay, cool.
Do you have any not so fun facts for us today?
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
So, we're doing not so fun facts about notable crime cases that were allegedly solved or influenced by the supernatural.
Ooh.
So
Fitting.
yeah, exactly. So Teresa Fentress case in Texas, 1990s. A young boy, Adrian, disappeared from his home in Fort Worth, Texas. The supernatural clue was Teresa, a relative, claimed she had a dream about a boy buried. I don't know why that was weird for me to say. in her backyard. And years later, human remains were discovered buried there. DNA confirmed they belonged to Adrian. His father turned out to be her own son.
Wait.
Oh, no, sorry. His killer turned out to be her own son, Curtis.
Wait, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So a boy goes missing, and the mom of the household has a dream that the kid is buried in her backyard. A child is buried in her backyard.
Yes, she's a relative of Adrian.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And then she finds out her son was the murderer of the kid in the backyard that they found?
Yeah.
Holy, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
I believe in that big time.
That one kind of seems like to me she knew it was her son.
She had like suspicion.
Yeah, but I don't know, maybe not.
But I would even if she didn't have suspicion, I think for sure you can get like inspiration like that.
Yeah.
Like something fishy going on.
All right, the next one is the green bicycle case in England of 1919. What happened? Bella was found shot dead after being seen riding with a man on a green bicycle. The supernatural element, her mother reportedly had a strong, eerie feeling that Bella had died right around the time it happened.
Dang. I feel like mother's tuition is a real thing.
Yeah. The outcome, Ronald Light was tried but acquitted. Though the case remains unsolved, officially the mother's sense was eerily accurate.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big believer of moms knowing stuff.
All right, so the last one we have here is Carolina White kidnapping solved through a dream. All right, what happened? Carolina White was abducted as an infant from a hospital in New York City in 1987. Supernatural twist, Carolina said she always felt she didn't belong, and after years of dreaming and gut feelings, she did her own research and discovered she was kidnapped. The outcome, her own intuition and dreams led to her solving her own kidnapping case after 23 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that one's cool.
That's kind of like not our first case, but one of our first cases.
Yeah.
Of the baby getting stolen from the hospital. I didn't realize that was happening any more than one time. That's crazy. And the fact that she felt that way and solved it is wild. I feel like all those are interesting. It's like dreams and hunches and stuff. I don't know if any of them are as dramatic as a straight up ghost possessing another human.
Yeah, that one. I'm surprised that one wasn't on there.
I know, me too, because that one is like so extreme. I haven't heard of another case that extreme.
Yeah.
But it always interests me when there's other like supernatural ways that cases are solved.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Anyway, so it's a little bit of a different one this week, but we are so glad you guys tuned in for another episode of Siblings in Crime, and we will be back next week with another one.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Goodbye.